The unfortunate truth about creatine side effects. What if the biggest problem with creatine isn't the supplement itself, but what people believe about it? Creatine is one of the most researched supplements in the world. Millions of people take it every day to support muscle strength, workout performance, and recovery. Yet despite all the research, there are still countless myths, misunderstandings, and exaggerated stories surrounding its side effects. Some people avoid creatine because they're scared of what they've heard online. Others start taking it without understanding what changes to expect, and that's where the problems begin. Today, we're uncovering the unfortunate truth about creatine side effects. The ones that are real, the ones that are misunderstood, and the mistakes that cause most of the complaints people have. And trust me, number 7 is the one that surprises almost everyone. But before we begin, drop your name and the city you're watching from in the comments below. Alright, let's get started. Number 1. Stomach problems can happen. Here's a side effect that gets blamed on creatine all the time, even when creatine isn't really the problem. A few days after starting the supplement, some people notice bloating, stomach discomfort, cramping, or digestive issues. And their immediate conclusion: creatine doesn't agree with me, but the real story is often a little different. In many cases, the issue isn't creatine itself, it's how much they're taking. Many beginners spend time online reading about loading phases and aggressive dosing strategies. They see people taking huge amounts of creatine and assume that's the fastest way to get results, so they jump right in with massive scoops. Unfortunately, their digestive system doesn't always appreciate the enthusiasm. When you suddenly take large amounts of creatine at once, there's a greater chance of bloating, stomach upset, or digestive discomfort. Then the supplement gets blamed for a problem that may have been caused by the dosing strategy rather than the ingredient itself. The good news is that this is often one of the easiest creatine problems to solve. Many people do perfectly well with a simple daily serving and a little patience. They avoid the stomach issues, stay consistent, and still receive the benefits over time. That's why experienced users often focus less on taking huge amounts and more on building sustainable habits. Because when it comes to creatine, bigger doses don't automatically mean better results. In fact, trying to rush the process can sometimes make the experience worse. The lesson is simple. More isn't always better. Sometimes the smartest approach is also the simplest. Take a reasonable amount, stay consistent, and let time do the work. Number 2. The scale may go up and people panic. Have you ever stepped on the scale, seen a few extra pounds, and immediately thought something had gone wrong? If so, you're not alone. In fact, that's exactly what happens to many people when they first start taking creatine. A week or two goes by. They step on the scale, and suddenly the number is higher than they expected. Naturally, their first reaction is often panic. Am I gaining fat? But here's the good news. In most cases, the answer is no. One of the most common effects of creatine is a small increase in body weight during the first few weeks. That's because creatine helps draw water into muscle cells, allowing your muscles to store more fluid. As those muscles become better hydrated, your body weight can increase, even before you've gained any meaningful amount of muscle. In other words, the scale may go up, but that doesn't automatically mean you're gaining body fat. Unfortunately, many people don't know this. They see the number rise, assume the worst, and quit taking creatine before they ever experience its real benefits. The irony is that this temporary increase in weight is often a sign that creatine is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Your muscles are becoming more hydrated, which can help support strength, performance, and recovery over time. That's why it's important to look beyond the scale and pay attention to the bigger picture. How do you feel? How are your workouts going? Do your muscles look fuller? Are you getting stronger? Because sometimes a higher number on the scale isn't bad news at all. Sometimes it's simply part of the process, an understanding that can save you from giving up on a perfectly normal change. Number 3. Hydration suddenly matters more. What if one of the biggest creatine side effects has very little to do with creatine itself? It sounds strange, but it happens more often than most people realize. One of the reasons creatine works so effectively is that it helps your muscles store more water. Better hydrated muscles can support strength, performance, and recovery, but that extra water has to come from somewhere. As a result, your body may need more fluids than it did before you started taking creatine. This is where many people get caught off guard. A few weeks after starting creatine, they begin noticing headaches, fatigue, dry mouth, sluggishness, or a general feeling that something isn't quite right. Their first instinct? Blame the supplement. But in many cases, creatine isn't the real problem. The real issue is that their hydration habits haven't adjusted to their body's increased need for fluids. Think about it this way. If your muscles are holding more water, it makes sense that your body may start asking for more water too. When that need isn't met, symptoms can start appearing, and they're often mistaken for creatine side effects. This becomes even more important as we get older. Many older adults already struggle to drink enough water throughout the day, and natural thirst signals may not be as strong as they once were. That's why paying attention to hydration can make such a big difference. For many people, drinking more water helps eliminate some of the most commonly reported complaints associated with creatine. So before blaming the supplement, it may be worth asking a simple question. Am I giving my body enough water to support what creatine is doing? Sometimes the answer makes all the difference. Number 4. Some people expect miracles. Now let's talk about a side effect that almost nobody mentions: disappointment. Not because creatine doesn't work, but because many people expect it to work like magic. Thanks to social media, flashy advertisements, and dramatic transformation stories, it's easy to believe that creatine will completely change your body within a matter of days. People start taking their first scoop expecting bigger muscles, endless energy, and noticeable strength gains by next week. Then, reality shows up. A few days pass, and they don't feel dramatically different. A couple of weeks go by, and they don't look like a fitness model. The excitement starts fading, and frustration begins creeping in. The problem isn't usually the supplement. The problem is the expectation. Creatine has never been an overnight transformation tool. It works gradually, quietly supporting performance, recovery, and training capacity over time. The benefits tend to build through consistent use, regular exercise, proper nutrition, and patience. That's not nearly as exciting as a miracle promise, but it's much closer to the truth. The irony is that many people quit right before they would have started noticing meaningful improvements. They mistake a lack of instant results for a lack of results altogether. That's why managing expectations is so important. If you expect miracles, you'll probably be disappointed. But if you understand that creatine is a long-term tool designed to support steady progress, you'll likely have a much better experience. Because the people who benefit most from creatine aren't usually the ones looking for quick fixes. They're the ones who stay consistent, trust the process, and allow small improvements to compound over time. And that's where the real results begin. Number 5. You may feel bloated at first. Have you ever looked in the mirror after starting a new supplement and thought, why do I look a little puffier than usual? If so, you're not alone. One of the more common experiences during the first few weeks of creatine use is a feeling of bloating or fullness. Some users notice their muscles look larger and more rounded, while others feel like they're holding extra water and don't look quite as lean as they expected. Naturally, this can create mixed reactions. For some people, it's exciting. Their muscles appear fuller, their physique looks more substantial, and they enjoy the visual change. For others, especially those focused on looking lean, defined, or maintaining a certain appearance, the extra fullness can feel frustrating. But here's what's important to understand. In many cases, this isn't body fat. It's often the result of your muscles storing additional water, a normal part of how creatine works. As muscle cells become more hydrated, they hold more fluid, which can create that fuller look, and sometimes that slightly bloated feeling. The good news is that this experience is often temporary. Many people find that as their body adapts to creatine and their routine becomes more consistent, the sensation becomes much less noticeable. What initially feels strange often becomes something they barely think about. That's why it's helpful not to panic if you notice a little extra fullness in the mirror. For many users, it's simply part of the adjustment process, and once they understand what's happening, it becomes much easier to view it as a normal effect rather than a reason to quit. Sometimes your body just needs a little time to adapt. Number 6. Not everyone responds the same way. Here's an unfortunate truth that supplement advertisements rarely talk about. Creatine doesn't affect everyone in exactly the same way. It's easy to watch transformation videos online and assume that everyone who takes creatine will experience identical results. But real life is usually much more complicated than that. Some people notice impressive improvements in strength, performance, and workout capacity relatively quickly. They feel stronger, recover better, and see noticeable progress within a matter of weeks. Others experience benefits that are much more subtle, and neither experience is necessarily wrong. The reality is that several factors influence how someone responds to creatine. Genetics play a role, diet matters, exercise habits matter, muscle mass matters. Even the amount of creatine your body naturally stores before you ever take a supplement can affect the results you notice. That's why comparing yourself to someone else can be incredibly misleading. The person you're comparing yourself to may have a completely different training history, eating pattern, body composition, or genetic makeup. Yet many people make the mistake of judging their progress against someone else's highlight reel. The better approach is to focus on your own improvements. Are your workouts getting stronger? Do you feel more capable during exercise? Are you recovering better than before? Those are the questions that matter. Because creatine isn't a competition, it's a tool designed to support your body, your goals, and your lifestyle. Some people experience dramatic changes. Others experience smaller, but still meaningful improvements, and that's perfectly normal. At the end of the day, your experience doesn't need to look like anyone else's to be successful. Your journey is your own, and that's exactly how it should be. Number 7. Most side effects are actually user mistakes. Now here's the truth that catches almost everyone off guard. Many of the most commonly reported creatine side effects aren't actually caused by creatine itself. They're often caused by the way people use it. Think about some of the complaints you hear most often: headaches, fatigue, digestive discomfort, and frustration from not seeing results. When you look a little closer, a surprising pattern starts to emerge. Some people aren't drinking enough water, others are taking far more creatine than they need. Some expect dramatic changes within a few days and become disappointed when that doesn't happen. Others take creatine but rarely exercise, then wonder why nothing seems to be changing. And many people quit after a few weeks, right before they would have started noticing meaningful benefits. In situations like these, the supplement often gets blamed for problems that are actually connected to habits, expectations, or simple mistakes. That's an important distinction, because if the real issue is poor hydration, excessive dosing, unrealistic expectations, inconsistent training, or lack of patience, then the solution is often much easier than people realize. Unfortunately, many people never reach that conclusion. Instead, they assume creatine doesn't work, or worse, that it's causing problems. That misunderstanding creates a lot of unnecessary fear around one of the most researched supplements in the world. The reality is much less dramatic. For many people, improving their habits makes a bigger difference than changing their supplement. That's why experienced users often focus less on finding the perfect creatine strategy and more on the basics: staying hydrated, exercising consistently, eating well, recovering properly, and being patient. Because when those pieces are in place, many of the so-called side effects suddenly become a lot less common, and the results become much easier to see. Number 8. The biggest side effect is misunderstanding. And finally, let's talk about what may be the most unfortunate truth of all. Creatine's biggest side effect might actually be confusion, not because the supplement is complicated, but because there are so many myths, misunderstandings, and exaggerated claims surrounding it. People misunderstand what normal water weight gain looks like and immediately assume they're gaining fat. They misunderstand how long creatine takes to work and give up after a week or two. They underestimate how important hydration is and then blame creatine when they don't feel their best. And perhaps most importantly, they misunderstand what creatine is actually designed to do. Some people expect it to be a miracle supplement that transforms their body overnight. Others fear it's some kind of dangerous shortcut that comes with endless side effects. The truth lies somewhere in the middle. As a result of all this confusion, many people either avoid a potentially helpful supplement altogether or use it incorrectly and end up disappointed. The reality is much less dramatic than the internet often makes it seem. Creatine isn't magic. It won't replace exercise. It won't replace healthy eating. It won't replace sleep, recovery, or consistency. But it's also not the scary supplement some people imagine it to be. For most healthy adults, Creatine is simply a tool. A well-researched tool that can help support strength, performance, recovery, and muscle health when used properly. The key is understanding what it can do and what it can't. Because once you remove the myths, the fear, and the unrealistic expectations, creatine becomes much easier to understand. It's not a miracle, it's not a monster, it's simply one piece of a larger puzzle. And when combined with exercise, good nutrition, proper hydration, and realistic expectations, it can be a very useful piece indeed. So, what's the unfortunate truth about creatine side effects? Many of them are either misunderstood, exaggerated, or caused by simple mistakes that can often be avoided. That doesn't mean side effects never happen, but understanding what to expect can make a huge difference in your experience. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a side effect while taking creatine? Was it something you expected, or did it catch you completely by surprise? Let me know in the comments below, and if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more honest health and fitness content without the hype. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.